Hello there guys, in this video I'm going to talk you through how to plot and draw lines which are horizontal, vertical, and then at the end we'll do a couple slightly more complicated ones. So for plotting these and drawing them, the most important thing that we need to remember is that when we write down a coordinate, we put the x value first and then the y value after, just like alphabetical order. And as long as you remember that, you should be fine with drawing these. So each of these sums or equations is actually giving us a rule that all of our coordinates have to follow. And as long as our coordinate follows that rule, then that point will be on the line. And if it doesn't follow that rule, it will not be on the line. So I'm going to show you what I mean with the first one. Our rule is y is equal to -4, or y is -4. So what we need to do is we need to come up with some coordinates where the y value is -4. So you might want to pause the video now and come up with 2 or 3 coordinates where the y value is -4. You might have different ones from the ones I come up with because there are infinite possible answers. But pause and write down 3 or 4 coordinates where the y value is -4, and then play the video again, and we'll see if you're on the right lines. Okay, so I'm going to come up with 3 coordinates where y is -4. So the first one I'm going to come up with is 1 -4. So x is 1, but y, which is the one we're interested in, is -4. Another one could be 7 -4. Okay, or one other one, let's go with -6, 4. So you can go with any number you like for your x value, but it's very important that your y value is -4. Sorry, should be a minus there. Okay, so now that we've got a few examples, we're going to start plotting them, and you might have some others that you could add on as well. I'm going to put, first of all, the coordinate 1 -4 down, and then the coordinate 7 -4, and then the coordinate -6 -4. And you might start to notice that these points seem to be following a pattern. Let's get a few extras down. What about 3 -4? -8 -4? -4 -4, and 0 -4. Hopefully that pattern is becoming even more obvious to you now as we go through it, but we can also go for fractions and decimals. For example, we could go for a half -4. So when x is a half, we're going to be here. It's going to get popped in there. Okay, so the more of these you do, the more clear that pattern is going to become. But what we actually have here is a horizontal line that goes through 4 on the y-axis. Okay, so I've drawn the line on now. I've basically drawn infinitely many points really, really close together. When you do that, you end up with a line. And all of these coordinates here follow the rule y equals -4. So we call this line y equals -4. That's its name. Okay, let's try another question. Let's try x is -1. So this time our x coordinate needs to be -1. Again, pause the video and come up with 3 coordinates and then play and see if you've got the right idea. Okay, so my coordinates are going to be -1, 5, -1, 2, and -1, 0. Okay, sorry, not very well written there. Okay, so -1, 5. Remember, you go along the corridor up the stairs. And then -1, 2, and then -1, 0. And we can come up with some with negatives like -1, -3, -1, -6. Okay, and this time you'll notice that we have a vertical line going through -1 on the x-axis. Okay, so here's my line, x equals -1. Now, if you feel at this point really confident with what we're talking about here, pause the video and see if you can guess or imagine what x equals 3 would look like and what y equals 7 would look like before I go through them. Okay, so for x equals 3, we need our x coordinate to be 3. So we could go, for example, for 3, 0, or 3, 4, or 3 -2, or 3 -7. Okay, so we end up with a vertical line going through x equals to 3. Okay, so there's our line x equals 3. For y equals 7, we need coordinates where the y value is 7. So we could go, for example, for 1, 7, 4, 7, -5, 7, and we get a horizontal line going through 7 on the y. Okay, so there's our horizontal line, y equals 7. Well done if you managed to figure those out before I told you them. Before we move on, I just want to mention a little point about the crossing over points, or the points of intersection where lines cross each other. The line y equals 7 and x equals 3 cross exactly at 3, 7. And hopefully that makes sense to you, because the x coordinate is 3, so it follows this rule, and the y coordinate is 7, so it follows this rule. Okay, so thinking about another one, if we want y equals -4 to cross x equals -1, well, we'd need x to be -1, and we'd also need y to be -4, and you'll notice they cross at -1, -4. Okay, now let's move on and start making the rules a little bit more complicated, but the same principle applies. We're looking for coordinates that satisfy, that follow the rules that we're being given. So the next rule is a little bit more complicated, but comes out really nicely, is y is equal to x. Now, remember, the word equals in maths means the same value as. So what we're looking for here is for a y value to be the same value as the x value. So have a go, pause the video, come up with 3 or 4 coordinates where the y value is the same as the x value, and then we'll see what it looks like on a graph. Okay, so I need the y value to be the same as the x value. So, for example, I could go with both of them being 2. 2, 2. The y value and the x value are certainly the same there. Or I could go for 6, 6. Definitely both the same there. Or I could go for 0, 0. Both of them are the same. Or -3, -3. So as long as your 2 coordinates are the same as each other, then you will be absolutely fine on that. Now let's plot them and see what we get. So 2, 2, 0, 0, 6, 6. Sorry, where is that going to be? There it is. Okay, and also -3, -3. And we start to get what looks like this kind of diagonal line, a really nice diagonal that goes through the origin, and it's kind of a perfect diagonal, 1 across, 1 up, 1 across, 1 up. If you think about it for a moment, hopefully that will make sense to you, because a coordinate tells you how many across to go and how many up to go. So if we're being told that those 2 values are the same, we're essentially making kind of like the first 2 sides of a square when we do that journey. Okay, so it's going to come out really nicely as a diagonal. Okay, so there is our line y equals x. Now let's do y equals -x. I'm starting to run out of space. We'll do this down here. So if you want to, -x is the same as -1 times x, if that helps you to think about it. So I'm going to imagine, first of all, let's have x as 1. Well, y is equal to minus that, so -1. Or if you want to think about it as timesing your number by -1, 1 times -1 gets you -1. Okay, let's do another one. Let's have 4. Well, 4 times -1 is -4, so y is minus the x value. A little bit more complicated when we go for a negative number to start off with. Let's go for -7. So y is going to be minus -7. Now, some of you will be happy thinking, well, minus a minus is the same as plussing. Or you might think, well, -7 times -1, when you times 2 negatives together, that is a positive answer, so you get 7. Okay, so essentially the 2 coordinates have the same kind of digit, but one of them is going to be positive and the other one's going to be negative. When we start plotting those ones, you are going to get this sort of shape coming out. Okay, so you'll notice it's similar to y equals x, but the line is going in the other direction this time instead. Okay, so I've drawn my y equals -x line on, and it's a lovely diagonal going through the origin again with a gradient of -1, 1 across, 1 down, 1 across, 1 down as it goes. Right, final one. We're now going to do something slightly more complicated. It still works the same way though. We're still being told a rule about the 2 coordinate values, but it's just looking slightly more complicated now. So this time we have to be able to put our x value in here and our y value in here and have that sum come out true. So what I'm going to suggest you do is pause the video for a moment, see if you can figure out a sum by filling in those 2 boxes with 2 different values. The one you put in here is your y, the one you put in here is your x, so you can then write it as a coordinate. So I'll give you guys a minute to think about it and then play the video again once you've done that and we'll see. Okay, so one I came up with, I decided to put 0 in here. 6 minus 0 is 6. So that's our y and that's our x. So I can write the coordinate 0, 6. Okay. I could also have 6 minus 1. Well, 6 minus 1 is 5. So that was my x, and that was my y, and I get 1, 5. Some other coordinates you could have that would also be correct would be 2, 4, or 3, 3, or 4, 2. So there's loads of different coordinates. There's actually infinitely many correct answers, okay? And you can have decimals and fractions and negatives if you want to as well. I'm going to stick with just these first 5 here, and we'll plot them and see how it looks. I'm going to plot them, I think, in the black pen so that it shows up really nicely for you. So first one, 0, 6 is going to be up here. Next one, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, 3, and 4, 2. So you see that we're starting to get a very, very clear diagonal line coming down this way, okay? It's always a good idea to do more than 3 because then you'll be able to see the pattern. So the more you do, the more confident you'll be with your pattern, okay? Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay then, so I've drawn our line y equals 6 minus x. Here I've just extended my line on, and to check that I'm right, I'm going to pick a coordinate that is somewhere along this line and just check that the x and the y value work, okay? So let's go for this point here, which is 7 minus 1. So if what I did was right, I should be able to put the 7 where the x is, and then the minus 1 where the y is, and that sum should come out true. So I end up with minus 1 equals 6 minus 7. Now that sum is true. So I'm really happy because I can see that not only did the points I came up with come up with following the rule, but also this other abandoned point I've chosen that was on my line also follows the rule. So any point on this line will follow that rule. Any point not on that line will not follow that rule. So things to remember for this bit of the topic then. If you've got y equals a number, you are going to have yourself a horizontal line going through that number on the y-axis. If you have x equals a number, you are going to have a vertical line going through that number on the x-axis. Y equals x looks like that, going through 0, 0. Y equals minus x looks like that, going through 0, 0. And you can even deal with more complicated rules by just thinking, I need my x and my y numbers to work in the sum, and then I've got a coordinate that's on the line.